Okay, so today's Tanya, the Alter Rebbe is speaking. We're in chapter 12, and basically he's addressing an interesting question. The question is, we already spoke about that we have, every Jew has two souls, right? We have a godly soul and we have an animal soul. So there's a part of us that just wants God. There's a part of us like an animal that just wants to feel good and not feel bad. So the instincts, and if you want to call it the God stinks. So the thing is that there's also this kind of Beinoni. And it's very important to understand this idea of the Beinoni. Why? Because a lot of times philosophies, religions, ideologies, they make a fundamental mistake, which is they look at life as a kind of an all or nothing game. Like this is right and this is wrong. So either you're, it's like different religions that billions of people believe in. Like if you do this, you go to heaven forever. If you don't, you go to hell forever. Because it's black and white. You're either good or you're bad. I don't know if you know this, but Islam says that there are 84 there will be, before the Messiah comes, there'll be 84 versions of Islam, and 83 of them are going to hell. So you better hope you got the right version. Right? I mean, there are 30,000 different, I think, sects in Christianity, as well as I believe Islam also has about 30,000. Right? So a lot of them are, unfortunately, they just screwed it up, and they're going to hell forever.
Christianity doesn't have the versions in heaven, though.
Right, they know. Right.
Hey, you go to be with the angels.
Right, different heavens for different strokes. It's a joke that Muslim gets to heaven and Thomas Jefferson, Scott Adams, George Washington starts to beat him. He says, "What happened?" He says, "There was a typo. It's Virginians." So the bottom line is that, in truth, every person has a war going on. We have a godly soul. The godly soul is so great that we'll never be as great as our godly soul. As it says, the godly soul is perfect. God didn't need to make the world for the godly soul. The godly soul is godly. He's like, doesn't need any rectification whatsoever. There's a part of you that's so pure that never needs to be rectified. And then there's a part of us that always needs to be rectified, always needs to improve. So the bottom line is that the Alter Rebbe is teaching us this level of the Beinoni, that the Beinoni is a person that doesn't necessarily, and it's very important to understand this, a lot of people have...
You're not recording.
I am recording, yeah. No problem. A lot of people have just whatever, don't feel free to say anything as long as you know it will be on the internet forever. So a lot of people have unnecessary guilt. Why do we have unnecessary guilt? Because, in fact, the Baal Shem Tov says the primary desire of the Yetzer Hara is not that you should sin, but you should feel guilty that you sin. So sin is not the worst thing in the world. Guilt is the worst thing in the world. Somebody told me the other day a very good line. Guilt is when you're feeling shame, right? Something that's the tshuva to make things better. It's not when you're feeling shame. You're feeling, I need a change. It's a positive force, right? Guilt takes you down. It's like an implosion. And tshuva is an explosion. All of life has to be moving forward. But the Yetzer Hara understands that a person can only move forward like gas in the car. There's got to be a fire that's burning. It's moving you forward. If you basically go attack, if the ego, that's really what depression is, the ego attack in the self, you're so bad, it's shaming oneself. Then a person basically, it says in Chassidus, depression is basically self-hate. And so the person loses, and that's interesting why clinically, when a person's depressed, they lose, let's say, a sexual desire, they lose their appetite. Why? Because normally if you love yourself and you have an appetite, you want to feed. Like if your child is hungry, you want to feed your child because you love your child. But if, let's say, there's an enemy, God forbid, or you hate it, or a dog that you don't like, and the dog comes to you and barks for food, you're not going to give it food. I don't like you. So that's an interesting thing that's going on. But the bottom line is, so the animal soul is a very powerful energy. So the Beinoni is not somebody that doesn't have an animal soul, right? That's like a level of a tzaddik. We all have instincts and desires. And we shouldn't feel guilty for having them. And that's a very important point to Tanya. You are a little animal. And don't feel guilty about it. They say the joke, and a guy goes into a bar and comes in and he takes a drink and he takes the little shot glass, he throws it down and he smashes it. The bartender looks at this guy like he's weird. He orders another drink, whatever, maybe something happened. Takes it again, and the third time he says, "Listen, dude, you can't come into this bar again until you get help. A year later, he comes back and says, don't worry about it. I've been to a psychiatrist for a year. No worries. So he takes a shot glass, and he throws it down, and he brings it. He says, I thought you got help. He says, now my psychiatrist taught me how not to feel guilty. So the point is that on one hand, guilt is a healthy sign. It means you have a godly soul, like we said before.
Right.
But on the other hand, it's also important, this is really what the Tanya, in a sense, is helping us understand, is that Hashem has different strokes for different folks. Some people, like tzaddikim, literally, they have to be perfect because they're on a very, very high level. People like us, we don't have to be perfect. We're allowed to mess up. But the thing is, we have moments of inspiration, and that's the time of davening. And davening, we're able to reach, in fact, the light. It's like davening is like you were welcomed into the palace. You're right before the king. Now imagine you're in front of the king. Suddenly it doesn't matter, I like chocolate and people, Baruch Hashem, we live in a time, not so much here in Israel, but in America, is the coffee beans from Colombia or are they from Panama? Like these are the issues. You're paying $5, people make $5 in 5 days. Here we're spending $5 on a coffee, and depending where the bean is, the big issues that people have. So the point is that those issues, suddenly you're in front of the king. You think you're thinking about your coffee beans? You're thinking about, wow, because all your desires dissipate. You're in front of the king. So Hashem opens up a window where his light is shining at this moment. And this moment of davening is a unique moment where you can just fall in love with Hashem. And that's the whole idea of davening, this whole idea of Chassidus. Before we were an outreach movement, Chabad was an in-reach movement. Because in davening, you're able to access real love of Hashem that you can't access the rest of the day. The rest of the day, you have to be busy with different things. But if you inspire yourself during davening, you have that love and that spills over. So after davening, you'll go back to your coffee beans. But at least you have a higher level, at least if you want to call it in your subconscious, you're at a certain paradigm where you're able to think in a godly way. L'chaim v'levracha. Any questions?
Your response to the situation and what you've done is more important than what you've done.
Your response, that's very good what you're saying. Your response to the situation,
the ikka.
Right, very, very good point what you're saying.
Everything is in the hands of Hashem except
your
response to it.
Right, very good point. Very good point. Your response is the main thing, right? So, right, very good point. It's very redeeming because ultimately, like many religions are about the faith and the emotions, we're about the actions. Because what matters most is what you're doing. It doesn't matter most what you're feeling.
But it's...
This is a big lesson for kids, right?
Yeah.
This is a big
It's a very big thing. Very, very, very important. Yeah, very important. Yeah.
The right intention
of
doing the thing.
Yeah, but it's already a higher level. Yeah.
Already, yes. Hashem can match the deed to the thought.
Yeah.
But remember, everything that we do, even whether we come to heaven or not, whether we do a mitzvah or not, that's in the hands of Hashem.
Yeah.
Do we enjoy doing mitzvah? That's our choice.
Right.
Are we doing it for Hashem? That's our choice.
I would go a little, I would say that it's even deeper than that. Meaning the main thing is the actions we take. And basically, more important, emotions and intention are very, very important. But nothing's more important than action. Like if I help somebody, bottom line, he got helped. Emotions and intention are very important. But it's not as important if I actually gave him money or not, And that's what Yiddishkeit is telling us, is that your actions in the real time are what really, really matter. And it's not about being the saint in heaven and getting out of reality. It's actually about being present. Now, extra things are extra, it's good. But don't forget the real world,
But how much of the real world, of the physical world, I would say, how much control do we have?
All right, so you want...
Yes, but when you say reaction, let's say you see somebody that needs money, right? Reaction is to give them money, right? That's also physical reactions. Is also choices.
I need your help. Asaf's a great guy.
And why are we giving the money?
Yeah.
Very important. Why are we giving it? Are we giving it because we feel sorry for them? Are we doing it because it's a mitzvah from Hashem? Are we doing it to look good in front of our friends? Why are we doing it?
I hear you.
A call